Yes, people. What's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. First things first, guys, make sure you smash a like and make sure you subscribe if you're new around here. We're racing along towards 6K subscribers. Every new subscriber helps, so please smash that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And let's dive into today's video and my reaction to a bit of breaking news from a few hours ago. And that is that Chelsea are set to sell Lewis Hall, the 18-year-old academy product. Reportedly, Newcastle are interested and Chelsea have set an asking price of around £30 million. Now, I mean, if you logged onto Twitter today and I'm seeing all sorts of outrageous takes being said. Oh my God, this Chelsea window is going to go from like a 9 or a 10 down to a 1 if we sell Lewis Hall. Oh, we should be demanding 70 million for Hall. Oh, Hall is way better than Chilwell and Cucurella. Hall is this, Hall is that. I like Lewis Hall, but are we really doing this whole getting overly attached to players just because they've come from the academy? Are we really doing this whole thing? Oh, every single academy player must be kept and must be a success. Are we going down that route again? For what it's worth, breaking Chelsea put Lewis Hall up for sale, seeking around £30 million. Now, Lewis Hall had been set to join Crystal Palace on loan, and that was all agreed and done. And reportedly, he'd agreed or was about to sign a new 6-year contract. I'm not sure if that has happened yet or not. If it has happened, it's certainly not been publicised by the club anywhere, but that's been agreed and he was set to sign that. He was set to go on loan to Crystal Palace, but for whatever reason, there's been a hold-up and that loan has stalled. And then we get this news coming out that Newcastle are very interested in Hall and are considering potentially bidding the £30 million for him. Now, Felix, who is obviously very close to particularly all things youth as well, saying that Chelsea are considering a permanent sale for Lewis Hall after delaying his loan move to Palace. Hall has already signed apparently, fair enough, his new 6+1 year contract and a pre-contract agreement with Palace, expecting to move on loan last week, but is now left in limbo. Newcastle have had interest for a very long time and had a £17 million bid rejected already this summer. Must have missed that. And then he's saying here, from his personal experience or from his understanding, that Chelsea rejected 2 bids for Hall earlier in the window, said he wasn't for sale. They then agreed on a loan and said he had to sign a long-term extension. They then said he didn't need to as the player was reluctant. Then once everything was agreed, they said they needed a long-term extension again. The player reluctantly agreed. They delayed the signing. Then the 6+1 was signed with all of this on the premise that he'd go on loan to Palace. He signed the pre-contract with Palace and then for no good reason has been waiting for over a week to join and hasn't been allowed. Now, suddenly they're considering a permanent sale. How disrespectful. Now, look, obviously, I've got no idea if all of that is true or any of that is true. I've got no reason to suggest that Felix is making that up or his contacts have made that up. He's normally very reliable with all things youth concerned. But let's dive into this Lewis Hall situation then, guys, because again, we have another situation where Chelsea have spent big this summer. We signed Romeo Lavia, we signed Moises Caicedo, two big signings, and we spent a lot of money, obviously, since Todd Boehly has come in. And players will need to be sold to balance the books. Players will need to be sold to trim the squad size down. And unfortunately, whether we like it or not as fans, academy products represent pure profit on the books. And with the quality of Cobham and the quality of players that they produce, unfortunately, the academy graduates are going to be up for sale. Now, one thing I would say is that I'm a huge Lewis Hall fan and don't think that he should be sold. But the reaction that I'm seeing from some people is unbelievable. It's almost bordering on embarrassing, in my opinion, like acting as if this could be like a Salah or De Bruyne level of mistake. He could really go on to be that good. Let me just make one thing clear. This is an 18-year-old who has shown a lot of promise and has played very, very well for Chelsea when he's featured. He has made 12 senior appearances, okay? And yes, you can argue, and I would agree, that if we're going down the route of selling academy products, then we should be looking at selling Conor Gallagher perhaps before. We should be looking at selling Amanda Broja. We should be looking at selling maybe Trevor Chalobah as well. But let's just hold that trail of thought and think, what if Poch really likes Gallagher and there's a space for him in the squad? That's very possible. He wants to stay and fight for his space. Broja, we haven't got any other options, so we're going to have to keep him because of lack of options at centre forward, unless someone else comes in the remainder of the window, which I still feel is unlikely. Chalobah will be sold. And then it leaves you one of Lewis Hall or Ian Martin. And that, unfortunately, is the reality of the situation that we're in. Whilst I don't think that Lewis Hall should be the first common graduate to be sold this summer to try and balance the books, I can understand why the club would certainly be considering it. Now, Lewis Hall is predominantly a midfield player by trade, although he's only ever played once for the Chelsea first team in midfield, and that was last season at Anfield, and he started in the midfield, and he got a bit overrun by the occasion, which is fair enough. It's what you'd expect, that like, it's a young player, big occasion. These things happen. No slight on his ability, but every other time he's played left back or left wing back for Chelsea, and he's done it very, very well. He gets forward well. He's got great delivery. He dribbles the ball really well. Also, all the ingredients to become a top player. No two ways about it. One big issue though is that how is he going to play left back for Chelsea on a consistent basis? He isn't right now at this point in time. Ben Chilwell is the number one. He's the vice captain. He signed a new deal. He's going to be first choice. We know that. And by the way, on a separate level, Chilwell seems to be the new scapegoat that people are going for, which is absolutely ridiculous, completely unfounded and nonsense criticism, in my view. But hey, people love to have a scapegoat and someone they target because they obviously have to have one. It seems like Chilwell's coming in for hate, which is ridiculous. And unfortunately, at this point in time, it does see, and hindsight's a great thing, but it does seem like signing Marc Cucurella last summer, which I think a lot of us were really pleased about because he did really well at Brighton. Man City wanted him and whatnot. Didn't have a good season, had personal issues off the pitch that obviously affected him, but didn't have a good season. And he's stuck on, obviously, big wages in comparison to Lewis Hall. And having had a poor season, there's no takers at a price that Chelsea would deem acceptable. And I do believe that Cucurella deserves one more season to try and put that right. And I think that's fair. But that's where I'm at on that. He's not going to play. He's not going to play left back for Chelsea this season. And then have we even paused and given it any consideration that actually Lewis Hall might want to play in central midfield? He might want to be a midfield player. And in which case, that absolutely is not happening at Chelsea whatsoever. Given the investment we've had there, there's no chance that he gets into the side or gets any minutes in midfield. Has anyone actually given that a thought that maybe he wants to be a midfield player, for example? I mean, for what it's worth, he probably doesn't get in Newcastle's midfield either. And Newcastle will be looking to sign him as a left back. I mean, for me, in the ideal situation would be that we give Cucurella another season. We'd loan Lewis Hall out for this season. And if Cucurella does well and proves his worth, then maybe we sell Lewis Hall next summer, and his value could have gone up more after a good season on loan in the Premier League playing regular football. That, for me, is probably the best way around this situation. But ultimately, we got no idea how good Lewis Hall is going to become. Yes, he's got all the attributes. Yes, he's got loads of ability and is one of the best players to come out of Cobham in recent times. But the guy's played 12 senior games for Chelsea. And people are acting like he's the next coming of Maldini at left back, or Ashley Cole. Do you know what I mean? I mean, Maldini might have played right back, actually. But yeah, the point still stands. The point still stands. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the Lewis Hall situation, is that we all need to calm down and kind of remove this attachment from becoming so attached to academy players. Look, I for what it's worth, don't think we should sell Lewis Hall. I think a loan, as I said, and then reassess the situation next summer once Cucurella's had another season under his belt. But you have to understand, with the heavy investment that's been made and all signings that we've been massive fans of, that does come at a cost. And the saleable assets left in the squad are certainly those guys from the academy, in which Lewis Hall falls into that category. So look, it's clear that he probably could well maybe be sold, but let's wait and see also what he might want to do as well. If he does want to be a midfield player, it's not happening at Chelsea, and it's not happening probably at Newcastle either. They want him as a left back. But this idea that we should be fuming and the club are like fucked up and they're making a massive mistake, I think is a little bit wide of the mark. Yes, he's a talented boy, and yes, there's loads and loads of potential there, but not every player from the academy is going to be good enough to make the first team. That's the reality of the situation at this point in time. But let's wait and see what happens with Lewis Hall. But that's just my thoughts on the situation. I think there's a lot of overreaction going on. Let's wait and see what develops in the coming days, guys. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below on the Lewis Hall situations. Make sure you smash a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys, as well. Hit that subscribe button. We're racing towards 6K. Every new subscriber helps. And I will catch you again in another video soon. Take care, people. up the Chelsea, and peace out, guys.